Good afternoon. I was trying to guard people from leaving this place, but they escaped. I don't make a good cat herder. Okay, before we start my presentation, as always, we start every occasion with a prayer. I will say a short prayer in Zuni again. Let's sit down and look at on the Honaya to Katachi of the Shinakui, Imatunga, Kunko, one day, which look at on the Lisonka, Mapet, and I can't eat a you hit on Nasha, but Akiana, to take what's called I can eat and Yosekan, Ate, Shuka, Hotna Yato, Katachu, and take on them on them look when I isham, they on top in the cow and were top in the pen and like Iwicham and Ratic and Akona Atachu, Quadakona, Thames Ianichi, and look at on the Leakinot on, so they also take on the Anshop and Matachu, Hotna to you hit a national, not to take a Ianichi and the Atachu. Thank you. I can't even see the screen. Let's see. This one here? Hello? Works? Okay. This is my picture that I took with the original Ancient Aliens when we started out. My title today is Hopi and Zuni Reveal the True Prophecy of the End Time. And this is by myself. And then I have a Hopi partner. Yeah. I'll just give you the... Okay, this is where a lot of people have asking me, where in the heck is Zuni at? If you look at the Four Corners area, there's the Four Corners area, and they're the biggest one is the Navajo. The Navajo tribe. My pointer doesn't work in this light. Anyway, oh, there it is. Is there a pointer here?
But you'll be in control.
Yeah.
Use that, so that'll advance it and that'll move it.
Okay.
There we go.
This is our reservation here. And the reason this one is here is because that's where we call the Zuni heaven. This is where the home of the Kachinas are. This is where the portal to the underworld is also located. There's a lot of stories behind it. It's been there since the beginning of time, as I understand it. And of course, the Hopi Nation is somewhere smack in the middle of the Navajo reservation. These other tribes are in Arizona, down here on the Apaches and the Papagos. So today I'm going to talk about, next slide, over on the bottom. Okay, here we go. The origins of the Zuni people. We are the only tribe in the whole planet that has our own language, and that people have been trying to figure out where our language came from. It is a very sophisticated language, and all our Zuni people to this day, our young children still talk the language. We teach them every day, and we also have what we call a bilingual education program, which we also interpret both as tales, the stories in English and in Zuni. And we still teach the little kids how to do the dances. And of course, we're preparing them for the future of them. This is, you probably heard about the Sipapu, the emergence back after the end of the Third World. This is the Fourth World, and this Fourth World is going to end pretty soon. And in the last world, when it ended by the other forces again, natural forces. And the reason that it ended was because of what we're going through right now. Previous civilizations have committed suicide. Nobody came from a different world. Nobody came from the outer space. Nobody came from other places, but all civilizations. If you look at some of the greatest ones, whether it's been Mesopotamia, whether it's in Rome, whether it's in Greek, and even over here in the south, our brothers to the south, they died, their civilizations died by suicide, even though we had a lot of interference by the Spanish and others before that. So this is the Hopi place of emergence. And this is the confluence of the Big Colorado and the Little Colorado River. The Big Colorado, of course, comes down this way from Utah, and the other one, around this corner, comes down, and it actually, our Zuni River flows into the Little Colorado River. If you want to look at the things that we did about 4 years ago, it's on YouTube. It's called Expedition to Sipapu. And this is where we were going over there to look for the Kincaid expedition, and they found treasures of the Egyptian, the Buddhist, and those are the ones that was taken out in 1908 and taken to the Smithsonian. We went back and asked the Smithsonian where they're at, and they told us that they dumped them in the ocean, just like everything else. So that's just a quick review of where we're from. And at this time, I want to introduce a person by the name of Malava.
My name is Maleva. I am from First Mesa, Hopi. I am from the Snake Clan. My family, like I say, comes from Volpe, Arizona. And this is my friend, Clifford Mahooty. We've been friends for a long time. He's a Zuni Indian. What I'm trying to do here is that my health isn't very well, and I've been trying to get some stories out about the truth about the Hopis. So I've been in contact with my friend here, Clifford, and he was very grateful to help me get these words out for me, and some of the videos we'll be making and all the other things that he'll be talking about are things that I asked Clifford to do for me, and I think that will be absolutely wonderful. So I want to thank Clifford very much for taking the time to come to see me and learn about my stories, to get them out to you folks around the country, so you will learn the true meanings of the Hopis, the Hopi ways, and also about the true prophecies that were written down in the 1930s. He'll be showing those actually and talking about those, and we'll be talking about some other things too. Everybody wants to know about the Ant people. We'll be talking about a little bit about those, and Prophecy Rock. He'll be doing just a lot of different things over time for me, and I just want to thank you all for having me be there, even though I'm not there. I'm there in Seoul with my friend Clifford, Mr. Clifford Mahooty. Thank you all very much.
My name is Clifford Mahooty. I'm a Zuni Indian from Zuni, New Mexico. I belong to the Sun Clan and different societies in Zuni, New Mexico. I have had a lot of opportunity to have met with my friend Malava, and it is time now for us to talk about some of the legends, prophecies, and true things that are part of our history, about our culture, and especially about the spiritual world. So today I have met with Mr. Malava here, and I'm so glad that he and I are going to talk about some of the things that the world needs to know about, especially among the Pueblo people. And I look forward to having some information conveyed during our discussions so that the rest of the people will have a better understanding of the Native American people and how they have had connection with all different things that are in question today. So thank you very much. Elakwa.
Okay, that was just an introductory. We're going to go into some more detail. And again, I think this is still the Grand Canyon. I'm not sure I can see. Okay, we talk a lot about in our whole cultural Zuni and the Pueblo world system. There is absolutely no doubt in anybody the Pueblo people's minds that our Star Brothers were the one that gave us the technology, all the systems that we are still performing to this day, and we were helped after this destruction of the third world. And when we came back around into this fourth world, we were in the underground cities, what is now referred to as, in our interpretation, as the underworld. We have the upper world, which are the star system people, and in the underworld, which are also the people that we also have direct communication with through our prayers and our ceremonies, our rituals, and our systems that we have. So the other one too is that and other galaxies, which are not only in the ones that we call the constellations and other galaxies, but we have a lot of references to all the people and all the deities that came from those planets and those galaxies. We still have those deities within our tribal systems. A lot of them were destroyed way back about, say about 500 years ago when the Spanish first came in. And then throughout between the last 500 years, up to about the 1920s, the Spanish came in the 1490s, and they were still destroying those things. But we have a major portion of it, and we had to go underground with them. I have had the opportunity now, because I belong to many orders, to know about those systems, where they're located, and how they are kept. And these are the deities that were given by the star people, and in making up the systems of the clans, the orders of the way it's supposed to be, and also how to take care of each other, and the spirituality systems that we have to perform to be in connection with them. When I say them, I mean the star people, or some people call them aliens, and not only from above, but also from below. There's a huge set of cities underneath we call it the inner world, and of course, where we are at, we're looking at one right now. The mountains, the sacred places, all where the government has put aside, then they call them national monuments, national parks. And there's a reason that they isolated those places from the natives way back when. But that's another story. So moving forward to it, now we are very aware of the Orion's Belt. There's people that have written about it on the Hopi, the sacred geometry used in setting up the pueblos, which are now in ruins, like Chaco, Mesa Verde, Canyon de Chelly, and in Zuni, which people don't know about, is what they call the Yellow House. The Yellow House was in the same time erected during the time of Chaco and Mesa Verde. The reason you don't hear about Yellow House is because the Zunis did not want anybody to come over there and excavate those things. And I have very good back information about it. I've been studying it since I was about 10 years old. So, and okay, moving on to the next slide here.
This is deep space, square, and to the Hopi, the square and the circle is deep space. So if you see it on a wall petroglyph, if you see blackness and circle, that means deep space. If it's coming from the Hopi people, it'll be just knocked out. It'll be just knocked out like this and then chipped out. Yeah, or like this and then chipped out. That means deep space.
Deep space,
to the
okay.
Hopi. Okay. So these are the 19 stars. 18 stars shows summer solstice. At 1 week after from the Hopi village, you'll see 19 stars. Is it in the star cluster of Pleiades or the Seven Sisters? Okay, so that's what this is the beginning of this. Okay, so then, like you said, out of these stars, the gravity and all that, one of the stars gets kicked out, you know, and so it's on its way, maybe turn into a comet or whatever, you know. But this one that we're talking about is behind here, big star, very hot, big giant. So what it's going to do is it's going to take the path, which is this path here, okay? And then once it takes this path, it's going to circle the sun. Once it circles the sun once, it's going to come down here and circle the earth out here on the outer perimeter, maybe 60,000 miles up, which isn't very far. Then it's going to come back down. Let's see it come back down. And then it's going to go back up again to the sun. In a rotation, it'll come like this. I got it straightened. And it'll come back down around the sun again this time. This time when it comes down, it's going to come down close to Earth, you see. Very close, but it's so big that it's almost going to... On the first turn, everything's going to start shaking, you know, like the ground. And everything's going to start... When it comes around here, it'll be the day of purification, when the volcanoes will come, tidal waves, tsunamis, is that what they're called? And the ground shakes and the earth will tilt. That's the day of the purification when everything gets wiped out. And then once it goes around, it's going to shoot back up, and it's going to follow this path up here, and it's going to impact with a solar system out here and explode into millions of pieces from another star impact.
A supernova
Type of thing. And that's what this means here, that the earth shakes. It's coming from deep space, and these are like cracks in the earth, like so. And the first and the second time, and then the second time. This came off of a picture glyph that's on the reservation, like this, exactly how this almost looks. That's why I put it there. The T on some of these petroglyphs is two times when it circles the earth, twice. This is the earth here. So long time ago, when I was telling you about the story, way back when the earth was destroyed by fire, what happened was a deep space thing. It flew very close to Earth. These being little, like the one that fell in the Arizona meteor crater. And then all of these little particles, like the one I showed you, that fell all over the reservation and
magnetite.
And it hit hit all over the southwest, but hit our village and busted up all the sides where I told you the ground is black. And one part of the ground it looks like somebody came and just burned a giant path. That's what happened in the beginning. So that's what it is, dropping pieces on Earth. That was the first. But this is the one that they're talking about, and it will come as a blue star. What a star means, like a planet or something like that. But that's what it is. But there is no blue star, Kachina. He will not take his mask off. He won't come in, and that won't start. What will start it will be this. It's coming on its way. So that's where right now it's a long ways out. But this is the one that the whole. Okay. This is the story of life. This is the story of what's going to happen, what we came through already. The wand that you're holding, she's holding here, is the first world, the second, third, and the fourth world we're in here now. So when we return, she's looking through to the fifth world, which we will emerge again with the help of the star people and the ant people once again. So this is the connection with the Mayan people. So we do this. This is what's going to happen. This is actually the earth. And it's laying on its flat because it's out of balance. And these colors here will be north, south, east, west. So when it stands up again, then the earth will be back in balance. We will be back in the fifth world. So when the star people come,
to tell us what we're supposed to do. This is their porthole through the clouds. So when the star people leave, they will be gone. When the star people come back, then we will be into our fifth world. We are waiting for the great white father, which would be Jesus Christ, to come back and bring us the one piece of stone to show that it is actually him. So that's what this represents. That's why he has the cross on it and he's white like that. And on the back part of it is telling the story of the migration. And then we go through the 3 stars, which will be Orion's belt. But what happens here is Earth, it gets too close to a planet, and from heat, that's why we have to go back with the ant people. These are backward clouds. That means that the darkness will come. When we get reunited, Earth will be green again. This is the line of Earth. These are the people that we will reunite back with to come back to this world. The white people, the black people, the red man, the Chinese people, other people from foreign lands, that's what these are, and the star person himself, which that's what we go through. So that's what this doll is about. It's about the story of the nine elders from the 9 kivas from First Mesa. That's why this doll is here. And the story soon will be told about the prophecies to come, and I and Ron are going to work through.
Okay. What he was referring to is that there's been a very false information that has generated in the last 50 years. And that is that says that the blue star Kachina, or others say also the red star Kachina, will come and dance in the plaza, and when he will take his mask off, he will be an alien. That was a story made up so many times over, and I've heard it so many times, and other people has written about it without any reference. So as a researcher, as the scientific method guy, I have been tracing this story now since I was about, I'd say, in my early 20s. So I'm talking about way back in the 60s. And I have been following this up, and finally I found this gentleman that had been the first Mesa elder left of the 9 elders. He was trained by the 9 elders. These are the same elders that went to the United Nations and the League of Nations and told him about the gourd of ashes. Do not do that. You're going to destroy the world. And they kicked him out of there. And they called it at that time the House of Mica, which was the buildings were made out of glass. So this is the trainee, or at that time, or not a trainee, but the one that was initiated into that. There's another person that was on Second Mesa, which a lot of people refer to as Grandfather Martin. I have met with him many times, and sometimes he is perhaps influenced by other people that put things in his head, so he repeats it and it becomes very well distorted. I have a lot of respect for my elders, but in my own tribe, see, the Zuni tribe is bigger than the Hopi tribe. So I have also seen that in my lifetime of how they treat the elders to get a story so they can publish a book, get paid money, and be the expert. So now it is our turn. Remember the and my elders have been very frustrated for a long time, but because they do that now, this is the time now, because we can no longer put up with those type of made-up stories. This is what disclosure is all about, and we no longer are afraid of anybody. So this is why we're doing it. Okay, I come from the Zuni system, okay? there's a definition down the line in the other slides. I had a difficult time putting together, but the overall plural name for Kachinas is Koko, K-O-K-O, and okay, the mythical Kokopelli, if you look at his first 4 letters, is K-O-K-O. All the Kachinas' name starts with that. Kokokokshi means the rain dance. Kachina, which you saw in front of that Malava, the one that had the beard. Those are the rainmakers. And these are the ones that are just now finishing up. I think they're going to have the home dance in Hopi at this time. Okay. And what you... yeah. Okay, let me tell you the story about these things. See these things, beans? On one of my other slides, which I presented at the UFO Congress, there was a Saturn V rocket next to this one. And if you look at that, there are no arms. And if you look in there, what does that remind you of? Well, it's a whole thing is a rocket. But you remember in the Apollo series, when they looked out the window, what was the window? It was a triangular piece, right? There are so many parallels with this type of construction. Now here is your message antenna. Here's an antenna up on the top. This is it's like some type of fan, and then there's no arms. And then I have a friend of course I also took this in aeronautical engineering. And some of you are very familiar with that fly airplanes. The pitch, the roll, and the yaw. They're all included in there. Now there's a guy in there. There are controls in there. Why? Because he has to operate the communication system. He has to operate all the things, and then he has to have a way to look around there, and they can actually bend over forward like this. How can you, as a human being, take something like that that's 8 to 10 feet tall, using one arm and holding the controls on the other one and pick it up? That you have to be a Superman. But I have known about these things, and I was never one of them, by the way, because it was too difficult for me. These are, if you look at this guy here, he's a co-pilot. You look at the cap, on top of here, he's got a little deal on there. Those are the antennas. You look at all the other figures throughout South America, and they're astronauts. These guys are astronaut pilots. Now, I did a thorough research on this for a number of years, and these are the gods, the guardians. They carry weapons. These guys actually carry a weapon, but they don't use it. It's just because their exploration, and what these vehicles were used for was to transport. How many of you are familiar with panspermia? Panspermia is that they brought all the different species from other planets. These were, in our culture, in our history, were the one that transported them. And there's a whole ceremony called the Chalako ceremony. That's what they talk about. All the species are talked about, all the seeds, all the animals, and all the different. And this is what they say, these are the messengers. These are the guardian Kachina. These are the Kachina tricksters, or the mudheads. And they were born from incest. So we also have incest right there in the plaza. What not to do with your sister, your cousins, and all that. So everything is a composite of all the things. This is what we call the Longhorn. This is like the commander you might say he's one of the ranking officers of the whole Kachina system, the Chalako system. There's hundreds of different types of Kachinas. And I will go into the Kachina definition pretty soon. I just want you to get an idea of what these people look like. Now, this is a replica of an old altar. Do you see all this? Well, let me go back to show you what Malava was talking about. See these things that are here? These are not mountains. They're clouds. These step design, and these are the rainbows. And that's, of course, that's the sun god, and these are what we call our corn mothers. Remember when I did my prayer about the cornmeal? This is what we're all about. This is just a replica. It's not one of the real things. Going on. Now, there's another thing that's very parallel in other systems, especially when you go down to South America, Mexico, overseas. We call it the Plumed Serpent, or Katsukoro, or Kukulkan. If you go to the Chinese people, they call him the dragon, and this is the same replica. This is the painting of the original one that was in Zuni. This is used as the initiation of the Kachina world when we're about anywhere from 10 to 15 years old. I just wanted to point it out why they call it the Plumed Serpent. These things, it took me a long time to figure this out. Those are scales, because it can also go into the water, and it can also go up in the air. Doesn't that sound familiar with some of the things in the secret space program or UFOs? No video? Okay. What we talked about over here was the deities that the star people gave us. They gave us the clan system. They gave us the color system. They gave us a matrix of all the interrelated activities of how to carry out our civilization. It's quite sophisticated. As a mathematician, I thought it was going to be easy, taking all the different groups, different deities, different Kiva systems, different medicine societies. I had to give up. It's hard to admit that it is like working on a 5-dimensional Rubik's Cube. I mean, that's the way I felt. But I'm still working at it. It's going to take me a little bit of time. That's why I need 100 more years on this planet. Anyway, we're talking about deities and the 9 elders on this one. It's too bad we could not get the video to work, but the spirit tricksters. Okay, what I'm referring to now is this is a Zuni definition of what we call everything in the universe that are not human beings. Alien, okay, let's just go through that one. All non-human, multi-dimensional beings, ET, demigods, our guardians, protectors, knowledge keepers of the past, present, and futures of Earth are referred to as raw people. Okay, here's the exciting part. Beings include Bigfoot, little people, orbs, ant people, flying beings, and walk-ins. Kachinas are considered as friends when humans assume their role for ceremonial dances and spiritual rituals. Kachinas are a representative of ET because they came from all parts of the universe. They were the ones that taught the Zuni and other Indian Indian people to do the technology, to do the prayer systems. You go to all the different ruins, places that are now ruins, whether it be Chaco Canyon, Canyon de Chelly, Mesa Verde, all around New Mexico, Arizona, clear down to Sedona, clear down into Mexico. These are the ones that set up the system, and they also speeded the human. At that time, we were not human. Our ancestors thousands of years ago were living things, but they don't have the technology that we have today. So it's a very, very long prayer process where they talk about all these things, how they did it. And when I was explaining to a lot of people, if you go to look at some of these petroglyphs, you'll see beings or humans that have 6 fingers, 6 toes, and tails. You don't see too much of that, but there's their technology is the one that made the human functional. The original Pueblo Indian people to become functional. They had to cut off their tails, they have to cut off their toes, and even go so far as to fix their anatomy, put them in the right places. When they have been down in the Grand Canyon for ages after the last catastrophe, there was so many people down there and so many beings, they became distorted in their physical appearance. When you're in that cave for centuries and centuries, if not thousands of years, you're going to have anomalies that become different types of animals. So when they came out into the light, they had to fix them immediately. So it's sort of like a rapid evolutionary process. And it was not overnight. It took a long time. And there's a lot of parallels with that in other societies. As we know, you heard about the Anunnakis and all these other groups throughout the whole planet. But, and we also call them raw people. The reason that they're raw people is they're not cooked like we are. The reason that ET or other beings can walk through walls is because I cannot figure out a word to explain it, so I call it, they have cosmic magic. It's unexplained. There's something that we, the human race, haven't even come to understand it yet. But we do know about them. We can see them. We as people that are spiritual people, we communicate with them. A very good example is that when we go through the ritual process in our ceremonies, everybody knows what father, son, grandfather, young one is, uncle, nephew, brother, big brother, little brother. At the end, there's 2 people, 2 references to relationship that I cannot understand. So I asked my grandfathers, what are those 2 people? They told me that the last 2 are not from this planet. So my deduction, as I asked my grandfathers, is that are these those people that are coming from the stars or from the sky? He said, yes. There's 2 of them, which are, I now call them the space brother, space relative. It's all in our system. So there is absolutely nothing secret about these things. If you only, like I said to a lady a while ago, in the old days on the railroad tracks, the old sign, there was a sign that said, the words on there are stop, look, and listen. When those rituals were going on in Zuni, New Mexico, I sat there and I heard the ancient Zuni language, and so many years later I learned exactly what they were talking about. High order Zuni language. They were referring to space people, underworld people, all the different planets, all the different constellations. So we have been involved with, whether it be Orion's belt, whether it's Pleiades, even the Ursa Major, all the different planets, and all, of course, the moon and the sun, which we went today, those are our clocks. The moon is a better clock than, in my opinion, the atomic clock. And the atomic clock is the most precise clock in the whole world. So these are the things that I have been talking about. But this is the prophecies of our elders. I did not bring the sheet with it because I did a project in 1966. There was people like myself that were anywhere from about 80 to 100-year-old people. They had so many stories. So we had a grant from, remember back in the old war on poverty days under Sergeant Shriver in the Kennedy administration? So one of the things that we did was we applied for one of our programs to record all the history of the Zuni people. And we spent a whole year collecting all the information from old people. Now I'm in that category, so I can't really say that hard, you know. So anyway, we collected all those grandmothers, the grandfathers, and these were very, very powerful. I was 22 years old at that time, in '66, and when I heard those stories, that they digested them years later, and of course the people that interpreted did not know the background of the Zuni language in depth. So there's a book that was written about the elders, and they talk about the prophecies. One of the most famous prophecies that we were told when we were kids was that in the future, our furniture will start eating us alive. And this was in Kivas. But because they had a limited language, what we did not realize is that what came later as furniture, television sets, microwave sets, the stuff that these guys are working with, they will eat you alive. And one of the most famous one that I used to remember was that back in right before the Spanish came, that I understand is that no Pueblo, especially in Zuni, they never drank dark water. And so when the Spanish first came, they had chocolate. So they avoided chocolate. And they also later brought coffee. So they avoided coffee. And they forgot, well, there's nothing, you know. So they started drinking it. It didn't hurt them. Except maybe about 50 years later, they brought in something that was called alcohol. And so that prophet was fulfilled way long time ago. So these there's so many prophecies. Now, you probably heard about the coming back of the white buffalo calf woman. These are not albinos. These are actually white buffaloes. And it's proven by biologists. And this has happened, you know, this is primarily from the Plains Indian group. But in Zuni, New Mexico, back in the 1700s, they had buffalo. The same stuff the same animals they had in the Sioux Nation, all across the United States. So this is one of it came back up again. Buffalo calf woman, a lot of people know about that story. So this is another prophecy that has been fulfilled. This is Zuni, New Mexico, just to give you an idea of where I come from. This was taken back in the 1880s under the Smithsonian expeditions. It's all in those books that you can get in any library, or you can go back to their archives. See, this is the one thing that the Spanish brought that the Zuni adopted. Remember the Hornos, where they used to have the cooking, they cooked their meals in there. And Zuni happened to be one of the most progressive tribes that would improvise and accept things technologically because they were trained like that. So when the Spanish first came over here, they already knew about by their communication system of what they did to our brothers to the south. killing them, millions and millions of them. They already knew that. We, or at least my ancestors in 1640, were the first people in the United States to be met the Spanish. We were the first tribe. Our ancestors were the first tribe. But they already knew what they did to our brothers to the south. And there's only two groups in the Southwest, the Pueblo people, the Hopi and the Zuni, never accepted the Catholic Church. And they said that, well, you can stay, but we are not going to be converted. The rest of the Pueblo people, if you go, even to this day, it is kind of a very sad situation. If you go to Acoma, they used to cut off their legs. The Spanish did, and it's all recorded. But we're the only tribe that did not allow our people to become Catholics. However, we allowed them to stay there, as long as they did their thing over there and don't interfere with us. So this is one of the places. This is what it looked like in the 1880s on the Smithsonian expeditions. Here's this is how they used to get in and out. This is the carryover from the cliff dwelling days. Remember back when there were a Chaco or Camp Verde. Now this is a kiva. There's 4 the old Zuni village is built up on buildings that were destroyed. So they've been there for thousands and thousands of years. There's 4 levels under. This is the main plaza. And this is the kiva of the Kachinas. In this area, there's one below, and the way that we found out was back in about the 1970s, we were putting in water systems over there, and one of the tractors fell in. And that's when they finally, the elders of that tribe told us that you caved in on the lower levels of the village. So they went in there, and there's actually artifacts like the Hopis have. The Hopis have what they call flying shields, and they're about 8 feet in diameter. You know what those things are? Flying saucers. And in Zuni, they have the heart of the Zuni people is in that 4th level. There are so many things that are protected because of what they did to us that our people never allowed anybody to come near those places. But we now know that it has been coming out in recent times, because we have to know of where we came from in order to reinforce our thinking for the next generation in the new world that's coming about. So these are now known, but we are very guarded about our discoveries. These are what our ancestors look like. This is the father. Whoops, let me go back. This is the father of this guy here, even though they're different ages. And these were some of the leaders, what they looked like in the old days. This is what I'm talking about, the teachings of my ancestors, which had been carried on, that all I'm doing is I'm just repeating what they had passed on to us. But I am fortunate in one way that these people spoke Spanish, Castilian Spanish, because they had to learn that. In my case, I use the English language to interpret a lot of the systems in a way that I make it simple to understand. So these are my elders of past times.
The 9 elders. The 9 elders of the 9 kivas. When I was a little boy, 7 years old, I was standing outside by my aunt's house, and the columns are on top of the roof, and that's the beginning of what my journey went through, as far as learning a lot about our past and the things that are going to come up in the future. They choose a person, and through the years, many years, they teach you, each one of the elders teaches you one part of this, one part from the Kiva, one part from here. So the 9 elders have been around since, I would say, the first 9 elders from about the 1600s. Okay, as it went along, little by little, things were put to the side, and then the last of the 9 elders is I am. The rest of the 8 have passed away. They have left us already. But in who they are, they're elders from each of the kivas. 2 of the elders are from first and second Mesa because they had the part of our history that we needed from their part of their people. That part, Hopi also. But it intermeans together like that, so we needed. So they became part of the 9 elders. So as we went along, I learned from each and every one of them to become who I am now, which is actually a holy man. For a holy man isn't the kind of holy man that people think they are. A holy man for our 9 elders is for the Kachinas and the underworld. So I deal with the things from the underworld as far as ceremonies go. Things that came from above the ground. They have things that come from above the ground, but that's a whole different holy man. And then we become priests if it goes on that far. But a lot of the times we just depend on each other. So what happened was in the 1930s we had all the elders got together and we went to Walpi and we sat there and they invited the University of Colorado and also the natural history of Denver, Colorado for the people. And what they were going to do was we were telling the stories of the prophecies of things to come. So we wanted them there to write this down, and they didn't record it. It was all written. And first of all, it was written in Hopi, and then after in Hopi, it was written in English, and then they took it and then they put it into a type thing. But when a Hopi tells a story, like we all know, when we tell a story of things, we don't come right out and say the tree's gonna fall down tomorrow. We might say a different story, like there was a bunch of trees there and this tree got older and he fell and hit a rock. It's just a long part of the story. So what happened there was they got invited and they actually came into the Kiva, and what happened there was these are the originals. These are the original things. This right here, Clifford, is the envelope that it came in. This was stored away at the Museum of Denver, and it was set there since the 1930s. And then a friend of mine that's from the Heard Museum, his name is Barton Wright. He's a book writer. If you ever heard of him?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. He in the 1996. He called my father and said the envelope came. This is yours. It's come back because my father requested it back now to give it to me because I was the last of the 9 elders. And I was to get this out, and I just sat on it for a long time because I had to find the right person to get the information to get it out. So this is the original envelope here. These right here are actually the written manuscripts that were written in the 1930s. They were written on these. I have the original ones that were written in Hopi. There's a lot of them, but these are them right here. These are all the originals that were written down by the people from the History Museum of Denver, the ones that were going to take these. And there's a lot of them here you can see, and these are all the originals, and they written down. They also took photographs. So out of that, then they took to make sure that these were actually the original copies. There was only one set to ever be made, and these are the ones here. What they did here was, if you took, let me see if I can find one that's all the way through. If you take these manuscripts and you hold them up to the light, there's a seal in here. I don't know if we can see through these lights here. Let me find one that's make sure we got There was let's see, I'm trying to find. Okay, you can see through there.
Oh, yes.
See the seal?
Yes.
You can't see the seal like this.
You gotta
You
go.
can see the seal through there. That was
Oh,
their seal
absolutely.
stating that these were the original copies. Not copy, but the original
The original
papers.
paper,
The original. They have this seal.
I can see the seal in there.
Yeah, and these right here are second copies. They have no seal on them. See, none.
Oh, yes.
So these are the originals.
The originals. So you have the originals.
The originals right here, and these are the true prophecies of the Hopi people. Not something made up that you see on the internet. Not things that you see on YouTube. None of that. These are the true ones. These are the story of the coming of the white brother, who he really is, and how he came to us, how he went to the different villages. So that's why the 9 elders were there, to keep all this history together. And at one point, when everybody was passed away and left us, then this was to be given out to tell the people of things to come. A lot of things in here have come already, and stuff are still coming, and that's what makes these papers so important. And so what happens there is that there is so much to the 9 elders. It's also about the Star people and the Ant people. I am the one who protects them and the one who keeps them to where they are now and who they are. A lot of people don't know who they are. They'll write about the Ant people and they'll just say, well, they were this and that, and it won't even be 20 words. But the Ant people have been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Now, there's going to be a time that I have one actual photograph from the 1930s of one Ant person that we're going to get out to when we're ready for the people to show that this wasn't a myth, that these were real beings, and that I have, and that needs to be told also.
Right.
My grandfather and my father, there were snake priests, and my grandfather were medicine men. And I showed you the photographs made in the 1930s, stating that they came up there with another man making dolls out of clay and showing that these were the medicine man and the snake clan from Wopi. And those will tell, I'll like to tell you those stories too, and you can get them out to the people. But these, I believe, maybe on the next time you visit the people, you can go through these. We have to go through these a lot. So we can talk to each other about what's really going on. Because these have to do with a lot of things. It has to do with the prophecy rock. It has to do with the coming of the people. The coming of the people. That's why this doll is here. The 1, 2, 3, 4 worlds. The 5th world, you can see the Kachina looking through the 5th world. Also through the Mayan. Our earth, when it shakes, you know, the 3 shakings. That's what this is about here. And then our star beings, once they leave us, they shall return once we go into the 5th world and bring it down. That's why this doll was made, and this is, you know, like, you know, the north, south, east, west colors. This is the returning of the white father, the great white father that's coming, which would be Jesus Christ. This is the way this is put here to the beginning. This down here, Clifford, is all the people will reunite. All again, even the Star people. So these stories are in here. This is just a depiction. This back part up here, Clifford, is telling how the ending is going to come. Like you can see the moon.
Yes.
This blue star that they talk about. There is no blue star Kachina, but there is a blue star. It's going to rotate around the sun twice and then circle the earth twice. The first time around the earth, it's going to be quite high. The second time is the time that we have to really look out for, because that's when it's really going to be close and everything's going to shake, volcanoes and all. That's why this doll was made, to show part of what's all in here. So that's what I would like for you to talk with the people and let them know. We'll go through all of this stuff here, and very important for my people and your people and all the people to learn these things. It's time. It's time that they learn all of these things here. So this is why it's very important to get these out to people, and we have many stories that I would like for you to, I would like to share with you, and so you can get all these out. Like I say again, these are the originals here, and also they also talk about times. These times that they have here, if you add them together, gives a time of like renewal for different things. And then there's things we're going to talk about, like these people here. These people here are very special deities that have to do with the coming of our next renewal to a new world, our new order, and a lot has to do with the way that we treated Mother Earth. But we still have that time to try to change things. They're going to give a 7-year period of time when the first thing comes to try to change our ways, and those who don't will not survive. That's what's in here, and it's kind of like telling us what we needed to do, what we didn't do, and how we treated the Native American people and the Hopi Zunis, and not just the white people, but the Spanish people, the Aztecs, and how we all just battled. It just seems like we're always fighting, never got together. But this is things that I would like to get out there to a lot of the folks, and I'm gonna get all these together. We can sit down and go over a lot of these, and in time, hopefully, you can get these out there to all the people. What we did here was, I've been going through some of these, and then we wrote them down on a newer paper, so it's understandable. And what they mean, it's actually the stories of the prophets are told in stories, not more or less like people say, oh, a rock's gonna fall on your head. That's not the way it goes. It talks about things about life, and that's where the true prophecies come from. And then understand what they're saying, just like the Zuni people, when they talk about something, the elders, we talk about it in a story.
Right.
Like we used to sit down with Grandpa and Grandma, and sit there, and the light would be flickering, and we would sit there all night long listening to these stories, what they're telling us. And then they don't come out and say this means this, but then you think about it, this is what they're actually saying, this is what they're telling us. And that's why it's so hard for a person who doesn't know our history and how we do things, for them to understand the true prophecies, because you have to know the stories, just like petroglyphs.
Right.
Petroglyph, they put something up there, but that's not the whole story. It could be down the canyon, the rest of the story.
Yeah, right.
Or it could be behind or put together, and the clans and the migration that went through there put their signs up. But this is how we're doing, this is good hunting, this is what's happening, we both know that.
Right.
And that's the way that works. So those are a lot of things that I think we do really need to tell people.
Absolutely.
There's so many things too that I would like to talk about. Chaco Canyon, I have a pretty good idea about what happened to Chaco Canyon. It's just from my side and from the 9 elders. This isn't coming just from myself. This is coming from 9 other elders, from 9 different kivas, 2 from 2 different villages. And so this is a way. None of this is just one person. This is a lot of people talking about what is to come and what is to happen, and about our people. And what happened to us? What happened to the Chaco people? What happened to just a lot of things? What happened to our land of water, everything. How important things are. And I will share with you some really old photographs of how we save water, protect water. A wedding, how we get married, people don't even know. It's very important. It's very important to know. So you learn all these things, then you can share the right way of the Hopis and the Zunis together. So I thank you very much for taking the time to sit with me and get these out for me.
Well, thank you for our start of this project here. It's really very important that not only our people, but the rest of the world know about what the earth is going through, what the people are going through, and how we can prepare when things are in the history or in the prophecies that our elders talked about. And a lot of this is also the same as in Zuni, and we all have shared that information throughout the centuries.
Yes.
And this also, I want to point out that there's a lot of books, a lot of stories have been written by outsiders. I think that it's about time that people should know that there are some of us that have this very important information, which sometimes goes against what we know about. And a lot of these stories and books are written without any sources stated or information backup. So it is time that people like you and I go out there and talk to the public and our people out there that has an understanding of who we really are and what we know about what the future holds.
Yes, absolutely. We have I have and with not just the paperwork alone, I will want you to take a lot of the things that I have that I say that they've given me to show that this is really the true teachings and these artifacts that I have, and they will help people understand what we have to say and about our people and life in general. Yeah, very much.
That's great. And so with this, I want to let people know that we are on this project, and we have will be on this journey into the understanding and interpretation, not only of the papers that have been written here of the different elders groups in Pueblo world, but also connections with other things like earth changes, like the weather, like the planets, and also important thing is the petroglyphs, which tell a whole lot of story, which are sometimes misinterpreted. So this is why it's very important that we start to preserve and make sure that a lot of these information not only is written down, but with technology we can record these things.
Yes.
And I believe in that. It's time. I think that the disclosure period is upon us. It has been predicted also by other pueblos that this is what's going to happen. And unfortunately, most of the information was never written down and passed on, like we have done in Hopi and Zuni. And for example, in Zuni, we still, as in Hopi, we still perform the Kachina dances, which a lot of people don't really understand. So that's what our purpose is, or to make sure that we're all connected, and they're all connected with us, with the earth, the people of the earth, and also our space brothers.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we have a direct connection with them through our spirituality, teachings, prayers, ceremony, and rituals, which we are going to present to preserve. And this is what my purpose is in getting with you.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
And I thank you very much for the information and some of the things we'll be working with.
Great. Kwa.
Kwa. Ela kwa.
Brother.
Just to give you a background of who this person is, he said that he's the last of the 9 elders of their teachers. He lives in First Mesa. He has done a lot of other different work. He's one of the most expert Kachina makers of Hopi. The things that you saw in front of them, we're going to have a booth at the International UFO Congress in February, and he's going to be presenting some of his carvings over there, and also the recordings of the songs of the Hopi, the real songs. And what we wanted to do with this project, is to to take away the falsehoods and the different fiction or just the bad things that they wrote about Hopi, which again, the intent was to give false information to make a quick buck. And it has been really, we have really been in a very tough situation because there was no control when they used to write about this. And there is absolutely no such thing as the Hopi Blue Star Kachina or the Red Star Kachina. And they're not going to come into the plaza and take off their mask and be aliens. We already know about the alien people. Why should they come over and surprise anybody? We already know about them. So this is one of the things that we talked about, and the future things that will be immediately be put together by us is that the mummified ETs that came from Chaco Canyon, and also some of the information that I just made a reference to a while ago is the flying shields, and some of the different forms, the different life forms that have been kept by the Indians for years, that will finally let us do the revealing rather than some archaeologists or ethnologists from the Smithsonian, because they have absolutely no idea what they're all about. And so this is a preview of what will be happening when we get together all the other stuff. This is a very, very quick type operation. We only took this about two weeks ago when I got an invitation to be here, so it was really a very difficult, and I admire the technical people at this table here for providing some way to put together this program here. If it wasn't for these folks here, and I thank you very much for that, because these people are the ones. Thank you very much. Okay, continuing. I don't know. Again, I want to re-emphasize that since we already had disclosure and everything's going to be truthfully spoken, I think that they saved the best for the last is fake. No. But anyway, I want to continue this thing. One time I was doing a presentation on the Zuni people. See, this is the, whoops, wrong button again. Okay, this is the way that they used to carry our water supply, even when I was a little kid. See, they go, this is the Zuni River that they dried out, the dams up. So the women will go over there and put their water, and they put it on their heads, and they will walk into the village, and there's all kinds of steps. That was one of the tests for a bride. Can you imagine that? And so I just want to show you this. And this guy here, well, one time I didn't know, I looked at my slide and I said, this is the way they used to transport their firewood. And this is the old Pendleton blankets that now, if you go to Cameron, Arizona, if you ask for a Zuni blanket, they'll give you a black one, but they're real thin. But that's still the same thing. Anyway, and so I made a comment, and I just wanted to see, I'm kind of like, they thought I was very serious, and I kept talking, and people were going to sleep, and I told them that, he said, back in Zuni, New Mexico, in 1880, we also had Democrats. Right here. And they say, what did he say? What did he say? This is the what we call the To'ayalani. This is during the Great Flood. This is where the Zunis survived, and the others went into the Grand Canyon, and there were several places that they survived. But this is where the Plumed Serpent comes into into play. These are, oh well, let's see. Let me go back. These are, see these rocks here? There's a story about rock people everywhere. These are the sacrifices that the head priest of the Zuni people had to do. Remember when you saw the Plumed Serpent from the beginning? So they were there. The Plumed Serpent was going to destruct the world, and in order to appease him, the beast, the Plumed Serpent, the priest of the Zuni people sacrificed his son and his daughter. So this is one of the things that they teach us about how to be very dedicated to things, even if it means giving up things that you love. I mean, this is a very cruel example of doing things, but this is the way, in order to survive, you had to make a choice. It falls in the same category as that, not really, but when you're out in the boat and then your boat is sinking and you make a choice between your mother or your wife, which one are you going to save, you know? anyway, this is Toy Island. This is up on this, in the Pueblo Revolt, they had to go up there. And when they kicked the Spanish out there, and they did a very, very successful job. And here comes another spirituality thing. The Pueblo people got together, and this was the only time in the history that the outsiders, called the Navajo and the Apache, got together with them, and they did their part. Now, when the Spanish first came in there and they were start kicking the Indians around in Zuni, there was a colony of Oriental people, Chinese people. They used to live behind the back of this mountain. And they had come there probably in my research puts it about 1100 AD, while the Pueblos were still going full blast over at Chaco and other places. So they settled behind this mountain. There was a book written by a person by the name of Nancy Yaw Davis, and the book's name is the Zuni Enigma. And we have so much history about the Chinese, or whatever the Oriental people were, living with us at that time, but they did not integrate with the Zuni. So there is no cross-pollination, so to speak, with the Pueblo people. They kept to themselves, and the only thing that they did at that time during the Spanish, when they first arrived, and also during the Pueblo Revolt, was that right after that they left. They just disappeared overnight. One of the things that they left was they brought peaches, which is not indigenous to this area. So for a long time when I was a little boy, I used to go with my grandmothers and my other elders people to the orchards that they provided there. So we have always been integrated. I was talking to a Welsh lady yesterday, and then prior to that, way before the Chinese showed up, that we also had Welsh people that were among the Zunis. And also later on, there was probably what some people call the Viking. The Viking group came through there. There has been so many different groups of people prior to 1492. Columbus did not discover America. How can you discover something that's already there? So this is why we want now to set some of the facts of our so-called history that was written by others. So now, this morning, it happened. There are no longer any more lies that we're going to put up with. And our young people are already ready to take on that task. We have an educated bunch now that are saying that we're going to destroy everything that they had We don't do it by burning down buildings. We don't do it by burning flags. We do it by education. That is the foundation. So this is my front yard, really. I have a mountain in my front yard. And this is me way back when, and these are some of the obelisks, if you want to call them that we had a lot of sacred places. Across this, if you ever go look for the person by the name of Frank Hamilton Cushing, he was the only white guy that was actually adopted into the Zuni system, and he was made a warrior in the warrior society. And he was sent to defend the encroachment of all the politicians to take away the land from the Zunis way back in the 1880s. So he did a very, very good deed for us, and he was kind of like a radical, sort of like me. And he infiltrated all the Kachina systems, the medicine societies, all the priesthood systems, which even an average Zuni could not do. And he used a lot of, he was also a trickster. He would get through there, but it's a whole story. You can get books on him. He's a real character. And if it wasn't for him, we would not have had the history of what I had learned from his writings. And let me tell you one thing, there are certain people that appear in these civilizations that come in there for a purpose. In my opinion and my background of my research about him, he was sent there by spirit people to record things so people like myself can find out what really happened at that time. And he was a very, very smart man. He learned the Zuni language in 2 years, the ancient language. It's taken me 40 years. Can you imagine this man that was there 24/7, learned it day in and day out, and he had to be he was not a real happy camper because he had to lay on the ground. He had to be like in Indians. They took his clothes off, they put him in moccasins and all that. So I recommend that you do research on Frank Hamilton Cushing. And so that's a lot of history was written by him. And I approve of that, what he wrote. He was with the Bandelier and Smithsonian and all those others back in the 1880s. So I'm standing here. What happened was that there was one of the 7 cities of Cibola, remember the 7 cities of gold that the Spanish were looking for? Somebody told him a lie that the Black Moor, Esteban, told them a lie. He said that there's more gold than all of Mexico, and it's right there at Cibola. So when they came over there was absolutely no gold. It was other places that they had the gold, and places like Utah, Colorado, but they already knew that they were coming, so they hid them. So this is one village that was in existence at that time. These are structures that were used for astronomical calculations, and the point is way back over here where the sunkeeper set, and he kept a calendar of all the different peaks. And then some of the stuff had been wiped out on the top. And there's, across this valley, is up on the top of the mountain, is a Stonehenge that was put in there. Nobody knows how long ago. Because when I would ask my grandfather, he said, I don't know. When I asked my grandfather, he said they were already there. And that Stonehenge is on top of a mesa, a regular circular. And what was very interesting is that there was a spring that came out on top of a mesa. How can that happen? So when I asked that question, I said, well, son, there's underground rivers. That's where the water comes from. This is before I went into a lot of research. Anyway, now here's one of the things that I deal with on Ancient Aliens with, remember the man with the wild hair? Giorgio, my buddy. And these are some, in all of the planet, there are so many pictographs, pictographs, rock drawings, whatever you want to call them. This is where I took the Ancient Alien crew. And these are some of the stuff that we took at that time. This is same thing. This is Venus, and a lot of these have been is letter day drawn into those. It's just like so. Here's the usual. This is what probably I think the Crab Nebulae was about 57 AD or something like that. So this is a depiction of what the Crab Nebula looked like to them. And so I can't even, it's hard to see these things, but there's a lot of these drawings that I picked from about 1,000 pictures that we took that time. And see, these things that you see in all the places that you go, these are what we call the journeys. The journeys meaning that I still haven't figured it out. Whether they mean a journey on the planet in 3-dimensional, or is it a journey to the stars, or is it a journey to the underworld? Because some of them, like this next one, they're vertical. I can't see where that. Oh, right here? See, some of them are vertical, but there's never a 45-degree angle. I could not find one at all anywhere. And I've been looking at them since I was a little kid. And so these are all around the Zuni village within 15-minute drive. They're all around the mountains. And when you're a kid, this is a common symbol. See, all these things are the one that was added on later. You can tell the difference. These are the original ones. This has been always been there in a lot of different places. I still haven't figured out what they are. And so, okay, here's a very interesting one that when we first walked by there, it was a different time of the year. So we didn't see it until, or the different time. This was in winter when we walked downwind. Then we went down the second time while the sun had come up from the solstice. So when you walk by here, the shadows are different. Look at this guy here. So we walked by and said, hey, wait a minute, what's that thing there? So I went over there and I checked out the peckings on it. I thought it was some guy that was trying to be, a smart ass. No, anyway, so we went back there, and the reason that I knew that it was above is that, it's been about 1,000 years. And the sand, because of the windstorms, in the old days that old timers tell me, we had a lot more water in those days. So what has happened is that the sand built up on it just by common sense. The sand built up on it, but the original site would have been at least 5 feet from the ground at that time, 1,000 years ago. So when we looked at this, we went back there and looked at it some more, and I wanted to make sure that this was not put in any time after those days. And you can tell just by the way that it's worded out. And then that became an ET. The ancient alien guys went bananas. So, see, here's another shot of it at a different angle. See, down here, this had been breaking off for years, so this has been way up there. When I used to go up there and look at those, they said they had to have scaffolding to put those things way up there. How in the heck would they have put them up there? So my theories have been that they build up things, and then they used to use notch logs in the old days to get up there, like they did in the building of their ancient pueblos. So that's one thought. Now, see, on the other side, you can see these things that were put in recently, but this one has been there for a long time. Oh, let me go back to where I was working with another guy, and he had to point this out because it's an elongated neck, and so this looks like what do you call it, the gray or whatever. Okay, so this had been around there. Now these things are, some people call it a mountain range. No, they're not. They say lightning. No, they're not. And see, here's those other references again. One of the things that was very interesting is that we have, this is over there at what we call Hardscrabble Canyon, where they, when they migrated from the Grand Canyon into the present-day Zuni, in this canyon is where they made the clan systems. In this whole canyon, you can see where the designated clans were given to the people, and it started out with the different animals, the turkey clan, the badger clan, the sun clan, the crane clan, and in one of these, now this looks like there's a lot of things like this that are coming down, and our ancestors used to have the stories of when the ETs, or what we term ETs, when they come down upside down. And they taught the Zuni people into the Kachina order to do that same methodology. So when I showed you the kiva, when the Kachinas come in there, they're coming from the sky. When they go into the kiva, they come in upside down. Now you gotta be a very good, a tough athlete, and you put your legs around those rungs of a ladder, and you're wearing a mask with all the feathers, and you're going in down like this. And so this is a good example. See this guy here? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? Kokopelli. And these are the stakes. And here's that other phenomena which doesn't have the size on it. That's actually a astronomical phenomenon that was interpreted by scientists from Los Alamos, and it's a electromotive force that shows, and usually they have little spots on the side. That is an electrical phenomenon that they used to see up in the sky. But this one here, my friend says that this was 1190 AD. And I have been having a fight with him. I don't like to, he's a non-Indian, and so because he's my good friend, I leave it at that. Okay, you believe what you want to believe. That's his story, and my story is that this is a UFO. Okay, so yeah, it's got nothing to do with volcano. Volcanoes are not like this, and they don't have anything like this, and they don't have a thing that this is a UFO. So okay, he said, all right. I told him, I said, yeah, we engineers don't know anything. You get your way. But I'm going to tell the truth next time. So this is one of them. There's many of these things, but they come in different shapes. I could not go back and find in 1980, I was on that mountain that I showed you about. I was on the east side of it, and there's a whole panel, I would say about, maybe 20 to 25 feet across. There's actually a UFO coming in at an angle, and it's a huge one. I'd say it was about a foot. and you can see that it's coming in at an angle. I went back there a couple times, and I could not find it. I took a picture of it in 1980, and I couldn't find the negatives on it. It was on a 35 millimeter camera. Yeah. So these are some of the things that are around the village. Now, one of the things that you probably know about is that we, not me, because I'm a lazy guy. They put a lot of these different Kachina systems, Kachina designs, a lot of the things that have been accumulated throughout the years into jewelry making. So we still continue. For example, here's the knife wing god. The knife wing god was also another demigod that used to come from the sky, which is also part of the medicine system. I am not covering the medicine system now, but I'm going to do it in a different story, which we're talking about, Malava and I. We're starting now a series, and we're going to make it look professional. So I'm going to cover a lot of these different deities. And this is one of the original, this is the 1950s. Some of you that are collectors of Indian jewelry, this is what they call the inlay and the channel work. This is when they had good silver. See all this, and these are white shell, jet, turquoise, and different colored shells. And but I just wanted to show you that we incorporate, here's a rainbow. And so the Zuni people are known for that. So these are just some of the things that I want to show you. You know, they're very well known for their cluster work. Squash blossom necklace, which they adopt in the channel work. And this is the set stone work. I tried my hand at it. Let me tell you one thing. I said that, well, everybody's making damn good money on it in the 70s. And they were ridiculing me because they say, you engineers don't make any money. They said, we're making hand over fist with money. So I went back there, and I tried for a year, and I said, it was too hard. I said, I'm going back. Engineering is easy. Well, in closing today, I just gave you a glimpse of what I wanted to, just to give you an idea of some of the things as far as disclosure is concerned. It's going to take, from this point on, there's absolutely nothing's going to hold anything back. We have been told a lie for years, and we were told that so many lies that some of our people actually believed in it, and they were captured. So they're going to be released now, and there's this type of effort that I'm doing. I have talked to many elders, which are left. They said they're not afraid anymore. So what are you going to be afraid of? This thing that I say, what can they do to you that they haven't already done? So get out there and the hell with them, and let's go for it. And so we do not deal with politics. We could care less about it. We have fought invaders for the last thousands of years, and so now it's going to be another cycle. However, at this time, we are now having very close contact with the spiritual beings. We are now in total connection with them. And we never gave up that connection. We lost a lot, but as long as there's a spark left in anything, you can start a fire again, and a huge one. So this is my effort with other people like him, with Malava and others. And so I am very glad to be here to at least start a little impact. And anytime that you have one person doing his or her thing, it will expand. And I would love to have sat under a tree in my retirement, write books. I don't have time for that. I don't have time to write lies about my life. So anyway, with that, uh, since you're the hardcore that stayed, I'm open to questions.
Could you please tell us a little bit about the ant people? I've never heard of this.
The ant people there's many insect groups. The two most prominent ones are the ant people and the praying mantis people that were doing, that took care of the Indian people in the last overturn of the world. Scientists say that the world has flipped over 14 times in the last 4.5 billion years. I can vouch for it, but we do know that we're just now finding out that the Earth has reverse polarity, and the Indians know about it. How did they know about it? Because they have been told of when it happened, how it happened, why it happened. The reason that a lot of things happen, if you look at the dinosaurs, if you look at some of the things that are now coming out, of all the different races throughout the universe, the star system, the different galaxies, and one of the most benevolent beings were the ant people and the insectoids. One of them is the praying mantis people. People have seen them. And in our next project, now what we're doing right now is that Malava and myself, my house in Zuni was right there on in all Pueblo people, Zuni is the center of the ant world. And my house was like right there where that shed is, and I did not know that it was a portal for the ant people until I found out when the ant society medicine people came. I went back to my society and I asked him, what were those people doing out there? He said, where? In front of my house. He said, that is the place of the ant people. See, he said, I wish you had gone and talked with them. I said, why? If you had talked to them, they would have captured you and made you an ant society medicine man. We need one in our organization. So we have these sacred places which nobody knew about, even myself. Okay. There's two types of ant people in Hopi. The first ones are about 3 to 4 feet tall. And they're clear. Have you ever seen a termite? You know, you can see right through it. There's no coloring, right? Okay, the smaller species of the ant people are about 4, according to Malava, about 4 feet tall, and they're almost white. The next species are about 6 to 8 feet tall. That are, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he said those are the red ant people. And they're still down there now. We also know about about portals into the inner world. And if you really study the priesthood of the Zuni people, you remember the Egyptian, what did they call them, the rulers? Pharaohs. The pharaohs and their counterparts, their female parts. Remember how they had elongated heads? And they have elongated heads in South America and Mexico. Well, our hierarchy in the Zuni world, we call them priesthoods. We don't call them ETs. We call them the Kachina priesthood. We call them the medicine man priesthood. And the leaders of the community by clan system, deity system, all that, when they came to the present day Zuni, they were priests. They were half star people and half humans. So they had the special place in all of the governing systems. Now, what's so hard about understanding that? If they're gods, demigods, then they're demigods. They're half aliens and they're half humans. We have been told that our lineage or go back to the star people. They come from different parts of the galaxies. Not only in this galaxy, but other galaxies. The society that I belong to is called the Milky Way galaxy. And there's other, you look at the Cherokee Nation, have you ever seen their emblem? It's an 8-star, the Cherokee Nations. And the Cherokees came from Pleiades. Okay?
From the Pleiades, right?
Right.
Yep.
And so, if they had paid attention, remember my story about the river crossing. If they did not just run over the Indians when they first came to this country and destroyed everything that they actually gave it to them, but they destroyed them. And they had, to this day, we have artifacts that are off planet. And we hid them because we now know what they will do with them. We still use crystal technology. We used crystal technology before computers. They would talk to the people on different planets. And I said, when I was taking nuclear physics and I was taking optics and all that, I was in the back of the room when I was a freshman in college. We already know about that. But anyway, it's very interesting. Any other questions? Yes.
So you mentioned something about not being... Hi, Clifford.
Hello.
You mentioned something about not having the Christian or Catholic or whatever come, and then there was no taking over that. But then there was the Jesus or whatever on the Kachina. So I was just wondering, where was the connection in that way?
Well, see, when he first said that, I asked him, I said, wait a minute. Well, he meant the white brother, and he thought that by saying that he would refer to the white brother. Now, there's two white brothers in the Hopi way. The white brother is the one that's what they call the Bahana, the one that went east with that piece that fits in the end times when they come and they fit the pieces together. Now, there's a lot of stories that become so damn mixed up. It's like like I do my wash. I just throw everything in a wash and they come out all different colors, So by the time that all these stories come out, I say, well, now which one is true? So what we're trying to do is that we're deciphering this information that have been scattered. So that's the first thing, that's the first reaction. We did not film that. I said, what do you mean by Jesus Christ? Because the Hopis did not accept Jesus Christ. The Hopis did not accept Christianity and the Roman Catholic Church. So I don't know. I will tell you when I find out. Yes, ma'am.
The question I'd like to ask you is regarding the Ra people.
Yes.
Have you ever met a walk-in? And if you have, what is your thought on them and your experience?
Well, I had two occasions. When I was in Oklahoma in 1975, I did not know at that time. I just read about him. So I've been reading Charles Fort and others since I was about 10 years old. And I knew, I had some idea about walk-ins. And there, science fiction has a lot of those things. The man from the future came in, or So I had an experience with this when I was stationed in Oklahoma, and I talked to this man that he was out of, he's just not a type of person that should be there, and I could sense it, So, and the walk-in was very straight-faced. I thought he was wearing an Air Force fatigue uniform. He wasn't. And I could not see any zippers or no buttons, and then he had a one-piece suit on. And I talked to that guy for about 2 weeks. And the first question, my trick when I used to be a young man was I take my buddies to the bars and they go after the girls, of course, right? My thing was that I would check around, look around, and I would buy a person a drink. And I would go over there and say, and then he said the bartender would give him a drink and said, that guy bought you a drink. I would go over and sit down there and say, I'm glad to meet you, introduce myself. And I used to say, pick a subject, we'll talk about it. Okay? I pulled this on him. And the first question he asked me was, what good books have you read? And I said, well, I read this, I read that. You don't understand my question. What good books have you read? I said, oh, what is a good book? He said, have you read the Bible? Have you read the Quran? Have you read this and all that? I said, wait, no. So all these experiences, I talked to him for a long time. He told me about the pyramids. He told me about all these things. I went there looking for him. I couldn't find him. I went to where he was staying at, supposedly. He paid cash for a 1 month stay, never gave a forwarding address, never told his name is. He said that all he did was pay cash. Don't clean my room. And that's when it really shocked me. He was a walk-in according to the way that I learned it. Second one was I met this man that looked like about 100 years old. He came to my village. I was doing a project. I was laying pipe, streets and water and all that. He came in there, nobody would talk to him. So he said, well, I'll talk to you. He sat down there. I looked at him. He was really, he's really wearing old clothes. So he said that I have some important things for you people to have. I said, what? He opened his briefcase, and he had these old plans. He opened it up. He said, there's an underground river right through your village here, your land here. All you have to do is tap into it and put in your farms. You can have the water for the rest of your life. And I said, well, we talk about an underground stream from the Pacific to the Atlantic in our prayers. He said, yeah, there is an underground river right here. And I went back and I looked for him. I had to go there, and I was a construction job engineer at that time. I had to go over there and make payroll and all this. I said, sit right here. I said, I'll be right back. I didn't go back for about 2 hours later. Got back there, he was gone. So yes, I believe that I had met at least 2. Any other questions? This gentleman.
Yeah, in the prophecy of the end times, what happens at the end of the second cycle around the planet?
The second, remember he said that when it comes close to the earth, volcanoes, earthquakes. Here's also the fine points of that. There'll be hot rain. There will be like what we saw today. There'll be like the blackout. In the Zuni prophecies, is that the sun will not rise, which means it's darkened. And then the one thing that is very in my brain forever is that the rumbling will start. The rumbling will start, and it was so low frequency that you would not know where it's coming from. And it is so low frequency that it will affect your your mind. Now, if you remember back in the late 70s, there was what they call the Taos hum. The Taos hum. At that time, we did not realize that, well, of course, we did not know at that time that was those atomic drilling machines that were going through there from Los Alamos to Area 51, and that's the one that melts the rock as it goes, and it glazes all of that. So that's the rumbling that I was in Albuquerque at that time. I almost went crazy. I thought it was a booze, but it was that. Yes, Snyder, yes.
They assassinated him.
Right.
And he tried for it to become whistleblower.
Yeah, he fought those aliens.
He wielded that valiant foe was 68 years working for the Pentagon.
Yeah.
I think my
Okay.
question was, is it an actual literal ending or is it a philosophical ending?
Okay, here's what happened on 12/12/12. Again, the wrong people got the information. They said the world is going to end. No. The civilization is going to end. How many civilizations have ended since way back then? What happened to the Roman civilization? What happened to the Aztec civilization? In the Middle East, way back in there, what happened to those? It's not the end of the world per se, it's the end of the people, because people are the ones that do it to themselves, not the earth, because this is Mother Earth. This is a living form of life, which is bigger than all of us. So when they say that the world will end, no such thing exists. Only man will end themselves. As a matter of fact, it's better that the man end themselves because the earth will reform again. It's happened before. So this is what I remember those days when the New Age, the harmonic convergence came about. There's a guy by the name of Jose Arguelles. He's just like any other writer. You know, I said, this is a bunch of BS. Because I read about him and I know who they were because I am a researcher myself. And so I just laughed at him. And then also like 12, what is the other one? Y2K. There was a hoax to give multi-million-dollar contracts to consultants. And I was there and I never accepted it. I was running an engineering department at that time, and when they gave it to me, I told them to go to hell. That's why, that was also another, yes.
Your tribe has, thank you. Your tribe talks of the ant people were you brought from another place on the planet. Do you have that in your history where your tribe was brought from another place to New Mexico?
No.
No.
Our tribe, I can't remember the term. That the ancient Zuni life forms, let me put it this way, were already here.
Okay.
Oh, there's a lot of things that were. This is a water planet. Mm-hmm. Okay. There was more water than it is than land right now. So when the people that originated here were formed from the earth by the Sun Father, because you can see that from a biological standpoint. When they first came over here, the star people came over here, they advanced them. Okay, the Anunnaki story is a good example. They came over there and when they mated with the women over there, they got giants. Well, in this case, according to other teachings, is that we were here, but we were not advanced. Remember when I said that they had to go through cutting off the toes and a process, and they had to give them the languages. Okay, again, Zuni is a language all by itself. Nowhere is Zuni spoken. Among the pueblos, there's related pueblos that talk in many tribes, many pueblos. We also learn their language because our rituals are in their language. Our medicine songs are in Kiris, so we had to learn those things. Other tribes like the Paiutes, there's a medicine order in Zuni that are Paiute Nation people, which are around Utah in that area. Now there is so many centuries of crisscrossing adoption. Here's one thing that happened that I know of. We're going to cover this with Malava and I. The Great Kiva that you see in Chaco Canyon is not a kiva. That's a landing pad of flying saucers.
Wow.
Yes, it is not a kiva. Kivas did not come about until after about Pueblo I, which is about 1400 AD, right before 1500 AD, before Chaco was abandoned. And how do I know this? Because it's in the songs. You have to go back to the source. We have so much information that if I had another counterpart like me in the Zuni system, that person and I could get together, we could publish the whole history of Zuni, but I don't have that counterpart. So
Thank you.
anyway,
Thank you.
sir.
You began to say earlier
Yes.
in your talk that certain national parks were made that and certain tribes needed to be removed from there. Is it because there are portals to inner earth and maybe ETs above that land in national parks like Yosemite, Mount Rainier, and then that's why it's hidden area and it's limited as to where you go, even in hiking trails in these special parks?
That's one of the reasons. When the people first came to this continent, they already saw from previous records of other explorers about some of the places that had. Remember that who was it that was looking for the fountain of youth? Okay, there's other places that were here that were open to other worlds, portals. Now the favorite term is wormholes, and that the Indians could come in and out. They can go places. When the American government first came over here, and after they wiped out all the buffalo, tried to wipe out all the tribes, they started seeing these important things. Why did they call them sacred places? Well, when they went there, they found out that there are certain things that existed. So in order to keep first of all, they kicked the Indians off the reservations. I mean, not the reservations, but they sent them somewhere else. And they took away all the land, and they busted all the things that they had, destroyed all the things that was out there for everybody to use. So now the National Park Service, the monuments and all that, and I work with that, with them for a number of years. And if you go back there, for example, like I was at Mesa Verde last weekend, and there are sacred places that not only go underground, but other places that nobody really knows yet. But we have held them back for centuries. Of course, the old timers have died. And if, for example, at why did they put Los Alamos nuclear labs at present location? That is the portal for all the medicine societies of the Pueblo people. That's where our galaxy system came through. And it's always been a portal, and they tried many times to destroy that portal. It cannot be destroyed. I'll give you a good example.
Hey, Clifford, can you tip the mic more toward your mouth, because this is really important. Tip the mic toward like.
Oh, like that.
Yes.
Okay. Towards the end of my career as an environmental justice coordinator, there is a place near Tucson, Arizona. It's called Mount Graham. Mount Graham is right borders the San Carlos Indian Reservation. And as an environmental justice person, I had this husband and wife. They were in their 90s. They were San Carlos Apaches. We took them to the Pentagon. We took them to all the different departments to let them tell their story about this sacred place that they're encroaching on, because they were trying to take that land away. At that time, I did not know that the Catholic Church was financing that encroachment at Mount Graham. They built the only binocular telescope in the world that is so super sophisticated. And they put it, the reason they put it on there is that it's right over a portal. That's the biggest portal that is right now. It was put together, but my understanding, by the Catholic Church, and no one knows who the other partners were from the government. And my sources told me the one that inspected the scientific parts of it, these are engineers, scientists, and their information is that when they opened that up, it was so perfect that you can see right through that portal. However, within a year, the ETs parked the biggest flying saucer in that portal. So they wasted $1 billion. If not going to be moved. So this is my information that I've heard. So it's happening all over the planet. And I'm sure that the black budget people will soon be exposed about those things. And the biggest, I am not against any organization, but my people saw and they suffered through what the Catholic Church did to them. On this side of the Mississippi were the Franciscans and the Jesuits. I hear so many stories from the Lakota tribes of what the Jesuits did to them. So I think what's that thing about what goes around comes around type thing is happening, and so I'm not afraid to talk. And so, question.
You mentioned education as one of the most effective tools of bringing about disclosure and progress and abundance and everything that we are looking to realize. Presumably, you've been including this information into not only you teaching the language and culture, but you're also presenting this information, introducing this into the curriculum. Have you met with any resistance from the system? And if you have, how have you dealt with that?
Well, as an individual, I've had a lot of resistance from everybody. First of all, when I took on this job over 30 years ago, is that I had a target on my front, I had a target on my back. The white people target was on the front, the back target was for the other Indians, because they do not want to be disturbed by anybody because of the comfort that was given them, especially by the politicians that were bought out. And so their fear is so extreme because that's what they do. I went through that with IRS. Instead of the CIA, the FBI, they're wimps compared to the IRS. They went after me because I did a little what was told me when I was in high school by the prophecy people about Obama, which I will not get into because, I had a real hard time with that. And he was, the bottom line is that he was going to start the destruction of what the United States was all about. And that it's not my saying, all I'm doing is saying what I was told. So please do not kill the messenger. So I think that for those of you folks that sat here till the end, I really appreciate it. I know that other people have other schedules, but this is not the end of what we're starting. This is only a start. And I am now in the process of working with other elders across the United States, including our brothers to the south, including our brothers and sisters to the other side, the Canadian. I am now working with the province chiefs or wisdom keepers. And so they have designated me as the South Gatekeeper. And I really don't know what that means, but they refer that to me. So, and what the hey? I got nothing else to do. So anyway, any other questions?
Is this working? Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you.
You said that your people had been keeping some, I think you said mummified ETs?
Yes, Malava, the man that was on there, the Hopi elder.
Yeah.
Well, there's mummified ET. I would say I saw it. I would say it's about 3 feet, and it's an ET. I don't know whether it's mummified or I'd say maybe petrified. It was brought in a beam that was at the Chaco when Chaco was abandoned. It was brought to Hopi.
And I think I heard you say that at some point you're going to bring these out?
Yes, we wanted. I don't think that he said it, but in one of the video, I asked him. He said, "Shall we go ahead and talk about that now?" He said, "No. We will talk about it later." And he did not want to discuss it, but he did show me. It's in a box and I mean it's something that I had not envisioned, even with all my training of other things that I've done.
Is it one of the grays or is it a different?
I don't know
You
because
don't know?
it's like I say, it's if you look at it, it's all brown because I don't know what they put in it, whether it's rosin or some type of a thing to keep it mummified, I guess. Like the Egyptian mummies.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a material, and my first thought was that it's got to be pitch, the pine tar, the juniper. I mean, not the juniper, the pinon. That's what we use for a lot of our preservation. So we will. This was a real quick job because I had to bring this over here. The next one is that we have some real professional photographers. I'm surrounded by them. But this was what I needed to do right away because I had 2 other trips before I came over here. So we slapped it together. When I was over there, we were doing fast track. Apparently we didn't do a good job, but I'm glad, like I said, that this gentleman over here, this crew over here did their best, and that's why we got that. Next question.
Clifford, if you can move, yeah.
Anyway, that's...
And actually, I'll ask a question real quick.
Sure.
So there's something I came across recently from an author talking about the comparisons of the eagle and the serpent, or the dragon. Have you found anything in your teachings showing that a lot of the histories you can see in the flags of different countries where it depicts an eagle seems to be doing something of repressing information of those that have something of a flag depicting either a dragon or something of that. Have you come across anything in that?
Well, if you look at the Mexican flag, remember that there's I think it's an eagle or a bird that's lifting the snake. That was I can't remember exactly, but when Mexico City was formed, remember they had that analogy put on their flag. If you look at some of the flags throughout the world, and a lot of them have dragons. I mean, the dragon motif is in many, many countries. Over there, they were calling the dragons. Yeah. and here we call him the Plumed Serpent. There's a film that I saw many, many years ago. It's on the Columbia River. And I have yet to find out who made it and what happened. It was like that Plumed Serpent. It was going up and down like this. And it was probably filmed in the 30s. And when it stuck its head out, you can see that thing like a fin on the top. Then we're back again. It's on the Columbia River. I don't know whether it was destroyed, but I saw it when I was in high school. And so there's a lot of things that have been put away when we asked for it. Just like that time that we asked for about the Egyptian, what did you guys do? Oh, we dumped it in the ocean. Yeah, gold. Yeah, jade. Yeah, sure. Yeah, chupacabra. Anyway, any other questions? Oh.
Some time ago, I heard that there was a problem with water in the Four Corners area.
Yes.
Is that still an issue?
Yes, the water pact of the Colorado River is going to be renegotiated in 1219. I tried to get involved with that when I was working for the uranium and all that, the confluence, but I haven't heard anything more, because what it's going to do is that Stuart Udall, when he was Secretary of the Interior back in the Johnson, actually Kennedy, Johnson years, and then they negotiated a water compact on the Colorado River and the Little Colorado. And now they included the southern pueblos, which are not part of the Colorado River Compact. But I'm going to do more research on that, because if the tributaries to that in any negotiation has to be involved. But I haven't heard anything more. So.
I also heard that there was, due to pollution of the water, that there was higher rates of cancer among some of the Indian peoples. Is this still so?
Oh, absolutely. Cancer comes in many forms. Radioactivity is a very common thing. It's a natural thing in the waters of New Mexico, Arizona. However, the tailings of it, I got involved with that $1 billion settlement contract to clean up the Colorado River, but the EPA took it upon themselves and hired their own cronies to do that. And the tribe never was involved in it. Now, one of the things that's kind of very interesting is that the Navajo is part of that Colorado River compact. And they did not give them the opportunity to do the reason. I was there in the beginning of it, and I just sort of gave up because the government took over, and they put in their own cronies, and we were ready to go with the brand new system of recovering uranium through a very sophisticated patented process out of Arizona State University. And the recovery was that it's going to be atomic grade uranium from the tailings. So, but the EPA under Obama, they squashed that whole thing, and they gave the money to the private contractors that were probably getting that money back from them for their campaign. So I really don't know at this point.
Do you have any suggestions of how we could alleviate that situation just as people?
About what? Uranium?
Yeah, the problem with the water and the high cancer rates and...
Well, first of all, there's a quick answer to that. If the United States Congress go on a one-term limit, then you can get things done. It's not going to happen. We as scientists and engineers, we already got the damn technology. It's the politicians that rule the world. We don't rule the world. This is the only country in the whole planet that engineers are way below. And they don't, with all the technology that we have, we are not respected. Other nations respect their engineers. This one, if you're a flunky politician, then you're a god. So this is not going to happen. Nope. Unless we get rid of everybody.
Yeah. That's mine. Yeah.
Anyway, I got to go get a drink, so thank you very much.